5 wickets in the middle session of day 2 of the World Test Championship. India would be happy with the 3 that they got, but they'd be hurt by the 2 that they've lost. And we look back at a session that leaves India behind in this Test match, and the first impressions from Sanjay Manjrekar and Brad Haddin on ESPNcricinfo Match Day, powered by Adidas, after both teams have batted at least for a bit on this surface. So Sanjay, the question starts right away. What's happened been in that one ball from Cummins to Rohit and then Boland in his 2 overs that has had India's openers befuddled?
Very impressed with the way Rohit Sharma started off. You know, we were talking about a heavy diet of T20 cricket, but played every ball to perfection, left balls outside the off stump. A couple of pull shots that he would think, should he be playing? But because there was just one fielder, he was fancying his chances. So he looked good until Pat Cummins showed his class on a pitch that seemed to have nothing for him until then. Got that ball to nip back, and that is, you know, what Pat Cummins will keep bringing in this Test match. These kind of deliveries out of the blue, nipping back, pace as well. Surprising Rohit Sharma didn't maybe pick the length right. With Shubman Gill, I thought Boland for me was the pick of the bowlers, in the sense that every ball that he bowled was creating pressure on the batter, and that again was Shubman Gill getting into a good position, but still not certain whether to play that ball or leave it, because he wasn't, I guess, comfortable in putting the bat there, because he wasn't quite to the pitch of the ball. Just a great line that was bowled. I don't think the ball jagged back too much, but a couple of good balls really from 2 good bowlers.
Length, Brad Haddin spoke in depth about it yesterday after the first session, but length did the trick.
Yeah, length was the key. We see when the Rohit Sharma, he started with a great intent, but it was Pat Cummins just went a little bit wider on the crease, got the ball to hit the seam and come back and get Rohit Sharma. LBW was looking very good, and Gill. What I liked about that dismissal there, we see Mitchell Starc start with 2 overs, wasn't quite getting the ball where Paddy Cummins would have liked, brought Boland back into the attack, and the one thing he did do, he made the Indian batsman play. He aimed at that off stump and got the reward with the big wicket of Shubman Gill.
Compare now what Pat Cummins did with his bowling attack with what India did. Shami and Siraj started off. Siraj bowled well. Shami wasn't quite getting his, line right, but he still bowled about 6 overs. That first spell of Shami was 6. Here, Mitchell Starc bowled, a couple of overs, and he got Boland in because he was just the right candidate for, what was needed on that pitch at that time. You had a batter out leg before, the other one bowled, which meant that you bowled that length where the ball was going on to hit the stumps and not sail over the stumps or beat the batter. And that again is a learning from maybe what India did in the first, or maybe Australia was always going to be bowling this length. Yeah,
we tend to look at bowlers who perhaps are bowling in England for the first time and think, can they adapt? But it seems like Scott Boland's been bowling in England all his life, Brad?
Yeah, Scott Boland's natural length will be really effective in England. He doesn't give up the stumps a lot. He just gets enough off the seam. And the one thing he does do, he just bowls that length where you're not sure whether to go forward or back. And we've seen that with Gill's dismissal. He wasn't quite sure whether he needs to play the ball or leave it. But Scott Boland, we've seen for some time now since he's come into Test cricket, he owns those stumps. He just gets enough to create enough doubt in the batsman's mind, but it was a good ball. He went a little bit wide on the crease, just used the seam a little bit, and it's been a really good start by Cummins and Boland with that new ball.
Is there something about the action as well that makes you instinctively as a batter feel like I can leave this and then you will come to regret it?
He's got the height, which means you're always sort of inclined to play on the back foot, but the length is always forward. And one of the things that I've learned from whatever little cricket I've played and watched is good batters, the first dozen balls that they face, you've got to give them the most balls that they don't like. And I thought Mitchell Starc didn't do that to Rohit Sharma. And to an extent, Pat Cummins as well, to Shubman Gill. There were a couple of short balls. This is a guy who loves to be on the back, but the balls that you want to both Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill is in that channel outside the off stump, slightly full. And Boland was the first guy who gave every ball to the new batter in that fashion. Plus that slightly, wide angle release that he's got. I saw him bowl in India And there again, quick adjustment of length, because there you need to be a little shorter because the bounce is lower. And I was really impressed with the way he bowled in extremely unhelpful conditions. When he was left out for a better bowler, I felt a bit sorry for him. So I was expecting something like this from Boland, and he hasn't let me down at least.
Yeah, length is the lesson that both Brad Haddin and Sanjay Manjrekar offer here. But pace, if at all, Brad, from the first 10 overs, is there a reason that Australia's bowlers seem to have bowled more, or at least between Boland and Cummins, have bowled more wicket-taking or balls that have asked questions? Rohit Sharma looked like he was hurried. Has the pace told you anything about the difference between both bowling attacks with the new ball?
Yeah, I see Paddy Cummins' pace was up. He's up around 140 Ks, but it's also an uncomfortable session there for India. Australia knew they only had a short period of time to play. They could go out all-out attack, and that's exactly what they did. They attacked the stumps. The one thing they both did, they both found their own length. They found their natural length hitting the stumps. And it's a bit different for both bowlers. Paddy Cummins likes to use the crease. He comes tight. We'll see him come a lot wider to Virat Kohli and try to get that ball to go away to first slip and the wicketkeeper. But they both found their natural length really quick, and that was hitting the top of the stumps.
All right. Well, this is a forgettable first 5 sessions, you think, for Rohit Sharma, who had so much to play for and look forward to as captain of India in a World Test Championship final. But let's just wrap up the Australia innings too, and perhaps have a chat on Rohit's captaincy as a result. Now, Jadeja got a big wicket of Alex Carey. He wasn't introduced all day and for a long time. Just the use of his bowlers, India were in the field for a labouring 121 overs. Could have been longer, but we already bring up the point, which Brad says, and you say, of how Pat Cummins was a little more proactive in the introduction of Scott Boland. So it's not been Rohit Sharma getting a lot right this test. How do you rate his captaincy?
You can say that, starting with the controllables, which is picking the playing 11. I would have had Ishan Kishan as the X factor, which I've maintained, going one spinner short. Even if the pitch was going to be a green top, I think 3 seamers would have been still a good way to go, because at some point with the weather forecast, the spinners will start coming into the game. Jadeja got an important wicket, and once again, DRS. That is how you get wickets through spinners. Carey's wicket was a review, so that was slightly disappointing. Apart from that, stuck to convention, didn't do anything out of the box, and some things that surprised us, like the bouncers didn't come at all in the first session, couple of hours of the first test match, bowling on a green top. And here you had Mitchell Starc bowling the first ball bouncer, and then the bouncer started coming in the second half. Today there was a lot there happening, so India's a bit late on doing the thing that had to be done much earlier. As
you extend on those points, Brad, I wonder how much of it you afford to captaincy being behind the 8 ball strategically, tactically, and how much was it perhaps on the bowlers to know their job better?
Yeah, I think if you have a really close look at the Australian innings, if you take out Travis Head and Steve Smith's partnership, India's bowlers did a really good job. I think we've got to give credit to the way both those guys played. Travis Head was brave enough to take the game on. He started the innings with some great intent. He was 28 off his first 20 balls and put the pressure straight back on India's bowlers, and they had a decision to make there. And they just won the moments in that partnership. But outside of that, India's bowlers did a pretty good job to get the rest of the wickets.
All right, fair enough. What can we expect as we enter the final session of play? Cheteshwar Pujara and Virat Kohli, these are India's 2 most important batters now. Are we expecting this bowling attack and this surface to ask serious questions of them? Sanjay, final session?
Well, I'm staying with current reality and not by reputation or stature of batters, and I think Australia have got a very important wicket in Rohit Sharma. And just the way he played in that little session as well, he's your batter in form at the test level. And after that, Pujara. So Pujara is still out there. Still, when you look at it, the pitch, when you start playing well, start getting into good positions, doesn't look that difficult pitch, but just watching that Cummins delivery, you'll keep getting those. Another thing that you also see, and might be the difference between the 2 bowling sides, is the height factor at which height the ball comes and then goes into the pitch versus somebody who's coming at a different lower point release. You just get different reactions from the pitch, so that might make a little bit of a difference. Boland as well. these are going to be stronger bowlers, coming constantly
Yeah.
at the Indian batters and might just get a little more from the surface than the Indian bowlers who bowl with a lot of heart. But naturally, maybe there's a little more of an advantage for the bigger, stronger guys here.
Yes, Brad.
Yeah, I think Australia don't need to look too far ahead. It's just Pujara and Kohli. These two have been the Achilles heel in Australia's side for some time. We know how Pujara steps up against Australia and his enormous wicket. So I think if they just don't go too far in front of themselves, look to get rid of this wicket, and they're only 2 wickets then away from the wicket keeper in Jadeja. So, and Rahani's just come back into the team. So it's important that they look and be really aggressive to try to break this partnership. They can break this partnership early. They can put a lot of pressure on that lower to middle order with Mitchell Starc. And I think another man who's going to play a big role with the ball here is Cameron Green with his height. I think he will be one bowler that'll get a bit of inconsistent bounce out of the surface, as you were just saying there before, because of his height.
I'm seeing a little bit of a change in Virat Kohli, the batter, in the last few months. For a long time, we saw Virat Kohli commit to front foot play. Like Labuschagne, standing outside the crease, taking a big stride forward, is something that is believed being his game, and he's got a lot of success doing that. But off late, that has hampered him from scoring a little quicker. We've seen guys who play off the back foot score a bit more freely. So I'm seeing Virat Kohli now trying to maybe just play a little from the crease. He stands outside the crease, but there's a back foot trigger movement that takes him closer to the stumps. So just a little adjustment that he's made, which is a good one. You don't want to be a front foot player no matter what, especially against these guys. So I hope that just helps his cause a little bit, because when he gets onto the front foot, no matter what, his strike rate drops to 30 and 40. We saw that happen in South Africa, and eventually, being an attacking player, there comes a time when he reaches a score of 40 or 50, and it's taken so much time to get there that one error creeps in and he gets outside. I just wish that he would use a little more of what Steve Smith and the others have done. Play the ball a little late and make his life easy. He used to do that earlier. I'm not asking him to do something that he's never done before.
All right. Final question for both of you. And Brad, you can take this first. If you were to advise this set of batters, looking at what Australia have already started asking questions of, what's the one thing you'd like to see from them to counter the threat of Boland and Cummins?
I think the one thing that the Indian batsmen have to do here is know where their off stumpies. Trust that their defence and know where their off stumpies. If you get the opportunity to score, keep rotating the strike. But what we've seen, that the guys who've batted well on this surface, and Steve Smith for long periods of time, knew where his off stump was, knew when he had to go forward or back, but he knew when to lead the ball with intent as well. So that's a key for the Indian batsmen now.
Sanjay?
I saw the Australian bowlers get a bit of lateral movement, which I didn't expect. We saw the Indian seamers bowl with a lot of heart, but there wasn't too much of movement off the pitch. We saw some swing, so that might just make things a little more difficult. I hope with few overs gone by, the ball getting a little softer, we don't see that lateral movement. Outside the off stump, Pujara is a great judge of that line, so he has to be more wary of what's coming in the stumps. And Virat Kohli, obviously, that line outside the off stump that Boland will keep, pegging at. So that's something he's got to worry about. Ajinkya Rahane, I've got no clue how he's going to be playing, because this is a different Ajinkya Rahane that we're going to be watching in this match.
Does anyone have a gut feel of where we could stand at the end of day 2? It seems to be like there could very well be a collapse, even though we've seen partnerships, once they come together, can go on. But the point Brad makes, outside of the Smith-Head partnership, it's a very different looking batting first innings. But is a collapse likely, Brad Haddin?
I think this is a partnership that has to bat the majority of the day, or if not all the day, for India. These are the two class batters. These are the guys who have great records against Australia. And if Australia can get one of these too early, I think you're going to put a lot of pressure on that middle order, especially with what I think is going to happen. I think this ball's going to move around a lot in this last session.
He's right. I mean, you've got two champion batters out there. I mean, Pujara is Pujara. He's been that way for the last so many years, despite being dropped and his comeback. So he'll do his thing, which gives India a lot of hope. Virat Kohli, one of the most mentally tough, Indian batter that I've seen. He's got a few technical issues. The form has not been great. He's not at the prime of his career like somebody like a Steve Smith. But you've got to trust the guy to bring his mental reserves and his toughness and just that confidence that he carries as a champion batter. And then that partnership which comes together, then you get those runs coming in. But a wicket falls early, then you're getting into very uncertain territory with Ajinkya Rahane and Shikhar Bharat. We know what Jadeja can offer. There's no Rishabh Pant to save India. So, yeah.
All right, a lot rests on the shoulders of Kohli and Pujara. We haven't even mentioned Nathan Lyon. We might see a bit of him towards the end of the day, and that will again bring us back to the conversation of having a quality spinner in your side. For now, it's Scott Boland and Pat Cummins that they need to contend with. Fascinating final session lined up. You think the fate of the test hangs in the balance. If India have a poor session here, there could be no recovery. They've managed to bat through most of it, and we might have a game as we look back at it on ESPNcricinfo Match Day, powered by Adidas, with Brad Haddin and Sanjay Manjrekar at Stumps on day 2. So do join us then.
जिस पे नाम सिर्फ एक का हो
लेकिन हो पूरे देश के नाम
उस चीज को हाउ डू आई डिस्क्राइब इट इस जर्सी के लिए मेरे फीलिंग समझाना इम्पॉसिबल है
पर इसे पहन के
I feel just one thing, impossible
इज नथिंग